Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. With pre-patch, we gained the ability to level 1 to 50 in under 4 hours, which is great, fantastic. But what the fudge do we do once we've hit max level? So today, as you may have guessed from the intro, or granted the title, or yeah, the description, Grim, don't forget the thumbnail. Yes, okay, also the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about what on earth you do at max level. We shall start with a little story. Imagine little Grim. I've got my little schoolboy shorts on, I've got my little satchel over my shoulder. I've come back, playing World of Warcraft after being with Warhammer Online for a bit. And it was Wrath of the Lich King. And I remember the very moment I hit max level. I was stood in Orgrimmar, and I was just kind of looking around, and I felt great. According to everybody, according to all the big boys, I had made it. Now the real game can begin. But I was kind of lost. I was just like, well, where do I go? What's my first step going to be? And I was so overwhelmed and so just lost that I logged out. And I didn't log back in for like 2 weeks. But I was lucky. I had played before. I did know about raiding. I knew that dungeons were there. I knew about PvP. Okay, PvP was a lie. I didn't know anything about PvP. So of course I came back like all of us do. Once you're bitten by WoW, you come back. But if you're a new player with no one to help you, with no previous experience, then realistically up till that point you've hit max level, your experience is as follows. Go to quest giver. They give you kill this, collect that, escort this, whatever dog's body quest that a hero of your stature is going to do for them. You hand it in, you take another one, and on you go. And so it goes, rinse and repeat. All the way until you have capped. You're guided the whole way, they hold your hand. And right when the game should be getting interesting for you, Blizzard say, grats on max level, dude, enjoy. And it can feel like you've climbed this mountain, you finally reached max level, you finally reached the top. And all there is now is, well, nothing. Apart from maybe climb back down and start the climb all over again, which is what a lot of people end up doing. And before we really dive into the do's, all the things that I recommend there are to do in WoW, let's cover some don'ts. So these come from my personal experience. They may be different for you guys. The top one is do not chase item level in World of Warcraft. It is the fastest way to burn you out. It sounds maybe crazy to some or obvious to others, I know. But the problem is people are going to say to you, you gotta get gear, get gear. Gear is everything. But the truth is, gear will come as you play the game. And as you push yourself just a little bit harder each time, do a slightly harder key, you push yourself a little bit harder in PvP, you go for the next raid till, the next boss, then your gear will rise accordingly. You just don't make it the focus of everything else. You don't focus on what is my item level, that is all that matters. Dun dun dun. Very dramatic, I know. Second, as I say, there's only a list of 2, but second is guilds. Like gear, people believe that at some point these doors mystically open, whether it be because your item level has hit a certain point, or because you've joined a guild. Now everything is there, available for you to eat like a buffet. Now don't get me wrong, I am all for joining guilds. I believe that if you really want to experience the best that WoW has to offer, joining a guild is the way to go. But just by joining, don't expect to be suddenly invited to mythic raids or have plus 15s handed to you. You get out of guilds what you put into them. If you are open and want to help others, then you will be helped in return. If you're just going to sit there and never talk to anybody, then you're not really going to gain anything from being in the guild. Now don't get me wrong, I'm fully aware that it can be a massive step to take. You're going to join this group of strangers, maybe, you're worried about you're going to get grief. Like, who wants that from a hobby? Something they're meant to be doing for fun, especially given how solo WoW is currently. But many of the things on this list, many things we're going to touch upon, all of the downsides to them can be offset by joining a good guild. That should be underlined in caps, air quotations, the lot. Good guild. In modern WoW, we also have communities, which sadly aren't supported as well as they should be. Blizz, typical you. There is also a ton of discords, meaning you can reach out and join them. No matter what area of the game you want to specialise in, no matter where you get your enjoyment from, there is a community out there that will suit your needs. You'll gain insight, knowledge, and you'll be able to play with players that you just wouldn't normally be able to contact and gain information from. But let's get into what we can do, rather than what we shouldn't do. WoW has a ton of content made up over years of expansions, and they do a really bad job of expressing this. Blizzard's way of letting us know what's going on is their adventure journal. If you haven't checked it out, it's worth having a look, see what is currently going on. It's also worth checking back every week because as events get reset, as new things come available, for instance, we've got the PvP brawl at the moment, but you can go and experience that. All of that's there for you in the adventure journal, tell you what's happening. Now for this video, I will be avoiding expansion-specific features, for example, islands, warfronts in BFA, because they come and go. God, please don't bring them back. Please, Blizzard, I beg you. On a side note, Torghast does look sick, so I'm good with that. But I feel that even though, in terms of WoW, world quests are a recent introduction, a reinvention, if you will, of the daily quest, they are worth talking about, as they seem to be sticking around now. As soon as you hit max level, world quests become available. It's a little different going to Shadowlands, but we're going to talk about that in a different video. World quests have a number of benefits. First, of course, is gear. No, I know I said don't worry about gear. Well, I know I'm saying about gear now. Just shut up, sit down. Now, after you're done questing, your gear is going to be patchy at best. World quests can fill the gaps, bring you up to sort of an even level so you can start going into different activities, and that is obvious. Beyond that, reputation gains is another major point to world quests. Not only is it required for flying early in an expansion's life, but also those reps for BFA, they currently unlock 2 mounts per faction. In Legion, the Rep Paragon boxes have a chance to drop mounts. Long story short, with reps comes mounts and goodies. Also, professions. They've recently started to tie professions into reputations with factions. So if you want to unlock those, you're going to need the reps. Last of all, and this is a major one, often overlooked by us that have played WoW for a long period of time, gold. There is a lot of gold that comes from doing world quests. Now we will be touching on gold a little bit later on, so bear with me. Now we're into the big stuff, PvE and PvP. Now we'll look at PvE first, that's where my home is. The big two in this circle are M+ and raiding. Now M+ has reignited WoW's endgame, having only recently been introduced, much like world quests. Sadly, it's a world that can put many off when they first step foot into it. There is this expectation that every new player knows everything, that you will interrupt exactly at the right moment. You will know all the right paths, you will know all the right skips. And it's made worse by the fact that people skip over heroic, therefore they never learn the bosses or the trash or what they need to do. Now granted, that may be because the queue times for heroic are now way too long. It may be because gear becomes pointless very quickly in heroic. I know I mentioned gear, just go away. But in the end, most just go straight into M+. Now I'm not saying this to put anybody off. That's the last thing I want to do. M+ is a ton of fun, like everything else on this list. And the higher you get, the nicer the players get, the less stressed, the less ragey it becomes, on average. Now be aware that it can be a long wait. If you're DPS, you're not waiting on a random party to be formed using Blizzard's Dungeon Finder. Instead, you're relying on other players to see you and want to select who you are. This, don't take it personally, will be done on what class you play. Most go with the flavour of the month mentality. Whatever the MDI special is, that's what they'll want to run, even if it's a simple +6. So as I say, don't take it personally. I would suggest if you're going to run solo, running your own keys. All you got to do is complete one M+ dungeon, you'll get your own key as part of your reward. Then you can create your own parties, bring in players that you want to party with, and who knows, if it's a decent player in your group, add them to your friends list. Not just because they were good ability-wise, maybe because they want to talk strats, maybe just because they actually talk. I know, a crazy thought in an MMO. But if you find players like that, reach out to them, as I say, put them onto your friends list and slowly build up friends so that you don't need to pug anymore. Last of all, regarding M+, if you're out there looking for a group, try looking for a title that's got chill in it, or maybe in the description. They tend to be just looking to complete the dungeon for the weekly chest. That's it. They're not worried about beating the timer. They're generally a lot more relaxed, a lot more friendly to new players that necessarily don't know everything. They will stop, they will explain things. Next up is raiding. The granddaddy of WoW, the original endgame content. Now, don't mistake LFR for raiding. Think of it like story mode, or like a dungeon you can't fail. Raiding is an aspect of the game that not enough players get to enjoy. It is a common misconception that only 1% of the player base try Mythic. It's still realistically only around 10-15%. Heroic does better, about 50% of the player base actually being able to participate, and that's actually a real shame. Raiding is still something that WoW does head and shoulders above any other MMO. It is still one of the best experiences you can have in WoW. Killing a raid boss you've been wiping on, feeling that sense of achievement. Raiding like M+ is amazing given the right group of people. But like M+, pug raiding is not without its flaws also. They will often look for a higher item level than the raid actually drops. Yeah, a little bit crazy. Or look for achievements like, say, ahead of the curve. For those that don't know, that's completing the raid on heroic difficulty when they're just going to run a normal. Now, we've covered two things so far. We've covered M+, we've covered raiding. And already I've said for both, pugs suck. And they will, without a shadow of a doubt, give you the most frustration and the most disappointment in WoW. So how about going forward? We just we take that as a given. Save me repeating it over and over again. So what I said with guilds, 90% of these problems are solved by finding a good guild. It's the very few that scream and shout, throw their toys out the pram, spoiling it for the rest of us. At the end of the day, 90% of the players that you meet are decent people. And they want the same as the rest of us. Simply to just enjoy the game. So now we've got that caveat out of the way, let's go into what's quite a sad thing, to be honest. And that's the lack of PvP in World of Warcraft. And I know, it's a shock, but for a while. Okay, breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. It turns out they have recently added PvP into World of Warcraft. Now, joking aside, this really is not my field of expertise. So take this all with a pinch of salt. But there are three aspects to WoW PvP. That is unranked, ranked, and finally, World PvP, or as well calls it, War Mode. Within Ranked and Unranked, you have Arena, which is 2v2 and 3v3, plus Battlegrounds, varying in size from nice little small-scale skirmish into full all-out war epic battlegrounds. Now, Unranked can be joined from the Dungeon Finder. You can even gain your weekly PvP chest from unranked content. Ranked, on the other hand, requires you to have a full completed party, whether it be 2 or 3 or a full 10-man for Battlegrounds. There are two things regarding PvP, specifically ranked. The sexiest mounts in all of WoW come from PvP. Also, the sexiest armor comes from PvP. That is my humble opinion. Plus, and this is probably the biggest, aesthetics aside, if you want to be the best World of Warcraft player that you can possibly be, PvP will take you there. It will push you up to that level. You will get your butt kicked. 100%. When you first start, you're going to get your butt kicked over and over again. But if you can play well, if you can line up your abilities, react to the environment that's around you while playing against real players, there is very little that PvE will be able to throw at you you can't deal with. I know, I just paid PvP players a compliment. Don't tell them. Now, World PvP in WoW is lacking somewhat. It is something Blizzard have tried to fix. War Mode has obviously been added, and it's a step in the right direction. With it, we've got titles, XP bonuses, World Quest bonuses. It is the closest WoW has probably come in recent years to a realised world PvP. But it really isn't there yet. Now, don't get me wrong, when it works, when you get that perfect alignment, that moment, when the Alliance and the Horde both show up, and it's full-on raid groups just smashing each other, it is so much fun. It reminds me of some of the best PvP games I've played. Sadly, most of the time, it just ends up you being ganked at a flight point. That may just be my personal bitter experience of it. Now, on to the stuff that Blizzard doesn't tell you about. With every expansion comes a wealth of content. Not many get to complete it all in one sitting, and that provides us with a ton of content in the long run. Now, since the introduction of time walking, it's never been easier to level up your reputations. Whatever factions are part of the time walking event, you can spend your coin to boost those reps. But it doesn't have to end with time walking. Be it via questing, dungeons, or even daily quests, we're able to increase our rep with these other factions outside of time walking. Doing this on a max level character is not only going to give you, of course, the rep, but it's going to give you gold rather than XP. So it becomes a nice way to put some money in the bank. As you gain rep, you gain access, mounts, transmogs, whatever the faction has to offer once they love you, of course. Now, speaking of mounts and transmogs, as more has been added to the game, so collecting them has become a full-time endeavour. When a raid tier is over, the Jaina mount being a prime example, the drop for the mounts, rather than being 100%, becomes percentage based. Normally sort of 1%, 2%, something like that. which means farming these can be what WoW is all about. Just trying to go back and get these elusive mounts with very low drop chance. Every week you log in and try your best to fight the RNG gods to see if something drops for you. And if it doesn't, well, you try again next week. And again, just like reps from doing this, you're going to gain a nice bit of gold along the way. Also, completing old raids is going to give us battle pets. And of course, sweet, sweet transmogs. Now speaking of battle pets, this is a whole world within Azeroth. You can capture battle pets, you can level them up, sell them, there is even battle pet dungeons if that's where you want your world to be focused. Want to understand how large battle pets is? It's crazy amount of pets. There's like over 500 pets to collect now, I think, with Shadowlands coming out. My guild is only small, even we have a whole tab just to share battle pets with him. Next up, we have crafting. Now, crafting as a usable trade outside of potion making has kind of been in decline for a while. Sure, some of the other professions have their moments in the sun. Inscription is one for rep scrolls early on in expansion. Of course, enchanting, jewelry crafting will always bring in a little trickle of money. But really, pots and gathering is where the real money is to be made. But that doesn't mean there still isn't fun to be had in doing professions. The fingers crossed, I will say this, that Shadowlands and their revamped professions can bring some new life to the field. Cuddles will be covering that in another video. Shameless plug. Now, the beauty of crafting is that it can touch upon every aspect of everything we've spoken about already in this video. If you're doing a world quest, well then stop off on your way, grab some herbs, grab some ores, it's extra money in the bank. You're doing some old raids for transmogs, maybe for mounts. On your way, pick up some sellable items. You can throw them on the auction house, maybe even disenchant them, get some extra money. And then you start getting into the world of playing the markets, World of Warcraft style. Fancy yourself as Axe Capital? Not many are going to get that reference. If you did, I salute you. But this is kind of a rough, bumpy ground segue into gold farming. An area that is huge in WoW. It always has been. Now, back in vanilla, gold was hard to come by. You wanted your epic mount, your riding, well, you better be prepared to work for it. Now, as WoW's gotten older, gold has become far easier to get. But that's not to say that we're all walking around with Brontosaurus mounts. There is always another expensive toy, another expensive mount to buy. Gold making in WoW has become extremely broad. And to be fair, could easily have, well, let's be honest, it has repeatedly filled whole YouTube channels with content dedicated to it. Now, last of all, the last thing we're going to touch upon. If you are looking for something that's going to tick every box on this list, that gives you a goal to focus on, much like when you're told to go and pick up that box and bring it back here, or go and kill that mob and then come back here. Have a look at the add-on All the Things. An add-on that lists, well, as kind of you would expect, all the things that are available to pick up and loot in World of Warcraft. That could be swords, to battle pets, to mounts, to helmets, to cloaks, to tabards, everything. Everything there is. Funnily enough, all the things. It is great sometimes to have something to do in those downtimes of WoW when you're not focused on whatever your next objective is. I need to get this plus 15 done. I need to get, I'm raiding tonight. You just want to log in, play some WoW. It's great to just give you something to do. Hey, I'm going to go and try and get that cloak from Bloodmaw Slag Mines. Or maybe that's not your thing. Instead, you fancy raiding or M+. Maybe you're all in on pet battling and gold farming. The point is, there is no wrong answer when it comes to WoW's endgame. Try it all. See what you enjoy. This video covers the very thin crust at the surface of everything WoW has to offer. As I said before, sadly Blizzard just don't shout about this often enough with the amount of content that WoW now has. Whatever you decide, just remember, have fun. It's a game. And on that note, the last tip I can give you from someone that has played a long time, take a break whenever you want to. WoW will always give you a way to catch up. You need to worry about falling behind, or worse, falling into the rut of just logging in just to do grinds over and over again. But that is enough from me, everyone. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. Have a great day. And I will catch you all tomorrow. Have a good one, everybody.